Bonjour, bienvenue à notre rendez-vous pour la presse en ligne et en direct sur EBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le mardi 23 mars. As usual on Tuesday, let me start by giving you an overview of the points on the agenda of the College of Commissioners tomorrow. So the College will adopt two proposals focused on children: a new comprehensive EU strategy on the rights of the child, and a proposal for a Council recommendation establishing a European Child Guarantee. Vice President Dubravka-Šuica and Commissioner Nicola Schmit will present these to you during a press conference tomorrow. The College will also discuss an action plan for the development of the organics sector, which Executive Vice President Frans Timmermans and Commissioner Janusz Wojciechowski will present to you in a press conference on Thursday, though we will specify the final details on that later today. Furthermore, the Commission will adopt tomorrow morning a revision of the Export Transparency and Authorization Mechanism. It will also adopt a delegated act to adapt authorized vaccines to new COVID-19 variants. This will not be done during the College meeting, but through other procedures. Nevertheless, we will organize a technical briefing on these points for you tomorrow morning. And after the College meeting, Executive Vice President Valdis Dombrovskis and Commissioner Stella Kyriakides will be here in the press room to present these files to you. And now over to Marta, who has an announcement on boosting wind energy in France.
Bonjour. Effectivement, le plan d'investissement pour l'Europe continue à soutenir la transition énergétique. La Banque européenne d'investissement a décidé de cofinancer la construction d'un parc éolien en Normandie d'un montant de 350 millions d'euros. Ce financement est garanti par le Fonds européen pour les investissements stratégiques. Le projet prévoit la construction de 64 éoliennes qui produiront l'équivalent de la consommation annuelle d'électricité de 630 000 personnes. Plus de 90% de la population du département du Calvados pourront ainsi en bénéficier. En termes d'emploi, le chantier assurera la création de plus de 1000 postes directs en Normandie et permettra également la création d'une centaine d'emplois durables sur le port de Caen-Ouistreham pour la maintenance. Et vous trouverez bien sûr plus d'informations dans le Daily News et notre communiqué de presse. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Marta. Avant de passer à vos questions, permettez-moi de vous rappeler les deux réunions qui se tiennent aujourd'hui de l'autre côté de la rue. Premièrement, les commissaires Janusz Wojciechowski, Stella Kyriakides et Virginijus Sinkevicius représentent la Commission lors de la réunion du Conseil Agriculture et Pêche qui se tient depuis hier. La réunion d'aujourd'hui fera le point sur la réforme de la politique agricole commune et continuera le débat d'hier sur les possibilités de pêche pour les stocks partagés avec le Royaume-Uni pour l'année 2021 et pour les stocks d'eau profonde pour les années 2021 et 2022. Le commissaire Wojciechowski participera à une conférence de presse vers 20h ce soir et le commissaire Sinkevicius a donné une conférence de presse ce matin. Deuxièmement, les ministres des Affaires européennes se réunissent aujourd'hui pour une visioconférence informelle à laquelle participe le vice-président Maroš Šefčovič, la vice-présidente Dubravka-Šuica pour le compte de la Commission. Les ministres prépareront la vidéoconférence des membres du Conseil européen et discuteront de la conférence sur l'avenir de l'Europe. Ils auront également un échange de vues consacré au rapport de synthèse sur les contributions du Conseil concernant le semestre européen 2021 et élaboreront le projet de recommandation concernant la politique économique de la zone euro. Une conférence de presse avec le vice-président Šefčovič aura lieu après la réunion. Nous vous invitons donc à réserver vos questions liées à ces sujets, comme d'habitude, aux conférences de presse respectives que je viens de vous annoncer. Et avec ceci, nous sommes prêts à passer à vos questions et je passe la parole à Athanasios.
Merci, bonjour. Could you please give us a little more updated and elaborate readout of last night's meeting of the High Representative with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey. And more specifically, you know, we've seen the tweet that they have discussed the Cyprus issue, but more specifically, did the High Representative persuade his counterpart from Turkey that the EU should sit on the negotiating table in Geneva and beyond that? Thanks.
Good morning, Athanasios, and thank you for your question, but I'm afraid I won't be able to go beyond the tweet of the HRVP. You know that the HRVP spoke extensively yesterday following the midday, following the press conference, during the press conference following the Foreign Affairs Council. He answered your questions. The HRVP met Foreign Minister Cavusoglu about, and he briefed him, or they talked about yesterday's discussion at the Council and about the report which was submitted to the EU leaders. As you know, this is a discussion that will be at the European Council. They exchange on many issues related to the Eastern Mediterranean, the regional developments, as well as the domestic issues in Turkey. But I cannot go beyond what was said and what the HRVP has tweeted himself.
Thank you, Nabila. Do we have other questions for Nabila on foreign affairs today, starting with relations with Turkey? I see only one hand raised. Ruud, do you have a question on foreign affairs?
Yes, hello, good morning. It's about China, actually. What's your reaction to what happened yesterday, since China hit back at what the EU did for banning people to its territory? Thank you.
Thank you. Nabila.
Well, thank you. And I think I would just refer you to what the HRVP has said yesterday. He was very clear when he said in the press conference, we were made aware during the meeting that China has retaliated to those sanctions. Rather than change its policies and address our legitimate concerns, China has again turned a blind eye. These measures are regrettable and unacceptable. So I won't go beyond what the HRVP has said. He was extremely clear in the press conference yesterday at the FAC about the retaliation measures by China following the sanctions that were adopted yesterday.
Ruud, you have a follow-up. Go ahead.
EU-China Comprehensive Agreement on Investment. Should there be any consequences for that regarding to you?
On this, I would rather Miriam to answer. Maybe she is better placed to answer since it is trade related.
Let's go to Miriam, if Miriam can connect. Yes.
Yes, hello. Yes, of course, I just reiterate what Nabila said, that these retaliatory sanctions are unacceptable. Targeting sitting members of the European Parliament and even an entire parliamentary committee will not help in terms of creating a constructive relationship with China. We remain convinced, however, that the size of China's economy and its importance for economic growth, we need to continue building rules based on economic relations with China at multilateral level and bilaterally too, as opposed to a power-based approach. The CAI is part of our toolbox with the objective to rebalance this economic relationship. That being said, the economic interest will not prevent us from standing up for global values, including where necessary through sanctions. And this is exactly what happened yesterday, which was followed by US, UK, and Canada. The prospects in this perspective for the CAI ratification will depend on how the situation evolves. And we have always said that the ratification will not take place in a political vacuum.
Thank you. Okay, do we have other questions on this issue of sanctions against China and Chinese measures towards the EU? David.
Oui, merci Eric. David Carretta, Radio Radicale. La question est complexe, mais je vous la pose quand même. Le fait est que la Chine, et on l'a lu dans le communiqué de hier du ministère des Affaires étrangères, vous demande à l'Union européenne une session de autocritique, traite l'Union européenne comme l'Australie et le Canada. Donc, est-ce que ma question est simple et compliquée. Est-ce que vous pensez que la Chine accepte l'ordre international basé sur les règles qui est à la base, en théorie, de votre objectif de relation avec la Chine?
Est-ce que la Chine
accepte... la Chine respecte les règles multilatérales, finalement, sur lesquelles nous nous basons pour nos relations avec elle?
Écoute, David, là, c'est une question un peu philosophique, je dirais, comme tu dis, complexe et simple. Tu sais que notre relation avec la Chine est une relation qui est à la fois stratégique et importante, et à la fois une relation qui n'est pas si simple que ça. La Chine est simultanément un négociateur, un partenaire économique et un compétiteur, et ce qu'on appelle un systemic rival pour l'Union européenne. Donc l'Union européenne travaille avec la Chine sur certains aspects, discute avec la Chine sur d'autres. Hier, les sanctions étaient très claires, et elles étaient ciblées sur ce qu'on appelle les droits de l'homme et sur la situation à Xinjiang. Donc je pense que quelque part, c'était très clair, notre message a été très clair. Alors après, je pense qu'il faut poser la question à la Chine sur si ils acceptent ou pas ces sanctions.
Pardon. David, tu as un follow-up?
Oui, la réponse de la Chine est claire, elle n'accepte pas les sanctions. Ma question est différente. Est-ce que vous n'avez pas une erreur de jugement de la Commission, de l'Union européenne, pas de la Commission, parce que c'est un travail en commun, évidemment. Est-ce qu'il n'y a pas une erreur de jugement quand on pense avoir affaire à la Chine comme partenaire d'un ordre international basé sur les règles? Ce qu'a dit la Chine hier dans son communiqué, annonçant les sanctions pour l'Union européenne, c'est pas votre affaire. Les questions des droits de l'homme, c'est pas votre affaire. Donc, on ne veut pas jouer selon les règles du jeu que propose l'Union européenne. Ça, c'est le message. Et donc, est-ce qu'il n'y a pas une naïveté ou alors un problème de fond? On s'est trompé de stratégie avec la Chine.
David, merci. Je ne voudrais pas que l'on rentre dans un long débat sur notre stratégie vis-à-vis de la Chine, qui a déjà été présentée ici à de nombreuses reprises, et qui justement tient compte de la complexité de la situation et de nos relations avec ce pays. Je voudrais simplement faire remarquer que justement, domaine par domaine, l'Union européenne a développé des outils, comme par exemple le régime des sanctions, qui permet de prendre des mesures lorsque nous considérons que la Chine ne joue pas selon les règles internationales. Donc il n'y a pas de naïveté, au contraire, il y a du réalisme. Là où nous pensons qu'il y a un besoin impératif de coopérer avec la Chine, comme par exemple sur le changement climatique, nous le faisons. Là où nous pensons que la Chine ne respecte pas les règles de l'ordre international, nous adoptons des mesures appropriées. Maintenant, le fait que la Chine n'accepte pas ces sanctions, c'est autre chose. Sinon, on ne pourrait jamais adopter de sanctions contre qui que ce soit, vu que généralement, évidemment, la réaction à nos sanctions n'est pas particulièrement positive. Mais ça ne nous empêche pas, justement, ça n'empêche pas l'Union européenne, justement, de travailler avec des outils différenciés pour pouvoir prendre des mesures lorsque nous avons la certitude ou la conviction qu'un pays ne respecte pas les règles du jeu. Merci. Je ne vois plus qu'une seule main levée pour le moment, et donc je passe la parole à Natalia.
Hello, my question is on vaccines. Can I ask now?
I think so, because I don't see any other questions for Nabila on Foreign Affairs. So let's come back to our favorite topic. Go ahead, Natalia.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask about the vaccine, Janssen vaccine. As this morning, Sandra Gallina said that their expectation is that vaccines of Janssen will arrive mid-April. But then at the same time, the director of the EMA said that these vaccines will arrive at the end of April. So I would like to clarify which one is right here. And most importantly, what I would like to know is exactly why why Janssen is not, like the vaccine Janssen is not arriving earlier. I mean, like, what is the problem right now? Like, what are the difficulties of the company to deliver these vaccines earlier? Thank you.
Thank you. Question for Stefan.
Thank you very much, Natalia. On the basis of the last contacts that we had with the company, as you know, we continue to be in ongoing contact with this company and with all the companies with whom we have contracts in the context of the steering board, for instance. But on the basis of the last contacts, we believe that first deliveries are expected as from mid-April. Now, it is very difficult for me to explain what could be the reason why deliveries take place at a certain moment. If you would like to find out more about this, I invite you to contact the company. What matters to us is that we ensure that deliveries take place quickly so that we can reach our vaccination target of 70% by the summer. And as we have already explained a couple of times before, we expect several deliveries in Q1, but also in Q2, which will indeed help us reaching this vaccination target. And that's what we remain in contact about with the companies. Thank you.
Natalia, you have a follow-up.
Yes, I wanted to know, but the company did not say why it's not delivering the vaccines before mid-April or end of April. And secondly, does any other company has said that they expect to deliver like later than expected in April?
Stefan.
Thank you, but I have no comments to share with you at this stage on this. I can only say that deliveries are at the heart of the discussions that we have with the different companies, and that we continue to work with them to reach our vaccination target. Thank you.
Athanasios, on vaccines.
It's on vaccinated traveling.
Hold on then, we will deal with that later. Thanks. Tommaso.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for the floor. Tommaso Gallavotti in Kronos. It's just a clarification. You said at the beginning that tomorrow you are going to adopt a revision of the export and transparency mechanism. I wonder if we have to expect something substantial, such as an automaticity of the block of the export if a company doesn't fulfill a contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommaso, but I'm afraid you'll have to wait until tomorrow to find out the details of the proposal. So I invite you to wait for the technical briefing tomorrow. Are there other questions on vaccines at the stage? Sandor.
Yes, hello, Eric and Stefan. I'm wondering that some private companies in Hungary are offering registration for Pfizer vaccines, and they are saying that they are in talks with Pfizer for deliveries. Are private companies like laboratories or private institutions able to purchase vaccines outside of the EU's box when we talk about the vaccines that the EU is also purchasing? Thank you.
Thank you. Important question. Stefan.
Thank you very much. You know, we have our EU vaccine strategy on the basis of which we have very clear rules as to how we are going to organize the purchase of the vaccines in the European Union. This is a joint strategy with all the member states and with all the Commission and with the Commission. On the basis of these negotiations, we reached an advanced purchase agreements with several of these companies, on the basis of which member states then place orders to make sure that the needs which they have identified in the context of the negotiations are met by sufficient number of doses. This is the mechanism, this is the system that we have put in place to ensure that through our supply lines we can cover the different needs of the member states, and this is also something that we continue to follow in the context of the steering board. What a company is doing outside of this scope is hard to take a position on. What matters is that the company and the member state and the Commission continue to work on this basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Yanis, also a question on vaccines and vaccination.
Yes, thank you very much. We have some information from the Greek authorities about the timeline of the arrivals of Johnson & Johnson, according to which it will be significantly backloaded. And if this is true for the whole EU, it means that the April deliveries will be less than 10% of what we expect for the whole of Q2. Can you confirm that that's the case? Thanks.
Thanks, Yanis. I think, as Stefan has said previously, that you're well aware of the fact that we are in constant discussions with the companies. We give figures over the quarter in terms of deliveries, and then there are discussions between the companies and the member states and the Commission in the context of the steering board when it comes to the exact delivery schedules. We do not discuss these here, but you can rest assured that we work very hard with companies in order to ensure that the deliveries take place as quickly as possible. Naomi.
Hi, Eric. Thank you for taking my question. Just quickly, the European Ombudsman has asked the Commission to disclose the nationalities of the 7 members of the negotiating team. Are you prepared to do that? And if not, why not? Thanks.
Stefan.
Sorry, the question was whether we are prepared to disclose the nationality of the members of the negotiation team.
Yeah.
Well, I can only say that we always work very closely together with the Ombudsman. We will definitely look into all the areas in the spirit of course, good cooperation, as we have always done. And at this stage, I think I cannot say more.
In any case, as you know, Naomi, the fact is that we have kept the members of the steering board, that is to say, all the member state representatives, informed of the discussions, of the negotiations when they were ongoing and at their conclusion, and therefore member states have been part and parcel of the negotiation strategy. Naomi, follow up.
Yeah, just quickly. So there's an awful lot of intrigue and criticism and I suppose confusion about the procurement process. Wouldn't it be helpful just to put out some of this simple information? Is there a need to be so mysterious about it? Thanks.
Look, I think Stefan has said that we will look into the request from the Ombudsman, and we will come back once we have considered it. Okay, I see no further questions on this particular issue, so I come back to Athanasios with his question on vaccinated traveling.
Thanks very much. I'm reading an announcement from the Greek government that now, as of today, they are accepting, or they are starting to accept 10,000 Israeli tourists per week, which is tourism is non-essential travel, in Greece if they are vaccinated. So if I remember correctly, there was some recommendation at the Council that the precondition for traveling from third countries was always negative tests and quarantine and so on. Only essential traveling, business and very specific categories of individuals could access the EU, and under a very strict conditionality. So what's going on here? Are they going forward on their own? They take a decision to accept vaccinated tourists without a European framework? How can that be possible? And are they...
Oh, I think you muted yourself. You did, Jonathan?
Yeah, and I was
Sorry.
I was saying...
We cut you off by mistake. Apologies.
Yeah. You know, the poses are always part of the music. So there have to be poses. If you play the pieces without the poses, it's something completely different. So I was saying, are they in breach of anything while they do that? That's a question for you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. At least that way you could catch your breath. We go to Christian.
Hi, thank you, Athanasios. Well, what I can say is that, of course, we expect all member states to respect the Council recommendation on non-essential travel to the EU from third countries, which is essential for the integrity of the Schengen area. As clearly set out in the proposal on the digital green certificate, we are, of course, working to make sure that the certificates will also be compatible with systems in countries outside the EU. However, for the time being, the external travel restrictions for non-essential travel should remain in place, except for a limited number of countries. The certificate does not change that. It will be nevertheless available for those third country nationals that may travel to the EU. Of course, and I may add that we are aware of the initiatives taken already by some member states when it comes to preparing, of course, the technological tools, etc., which are necessary for the digital green certificate to be rolled out for the summer. There is also no contradiction to what the Commission is doing in getting ready. But of course, the Commission's proposal will help to coordinate those initiatives and avoid unnecessary fragmentation and ultimately confusion for travelers.
Thank you. David.
Oui, merci. Je voulais vous demander un update sur la question des contrôles aux frontières internes, vu que la Belgique maintient sa position et on voit les résultats en termes épidémiologiques, l'Allemagne aussi, etc. Est-ce qu'il y a des décisions qui arrivent ou pas de la part de la Commission?
Christian.
Oui. Une seconde. Alors, comme tu sais peut-être, si tu as vu sur Twitter, le commissaire Reinders parlait avec la ministre de l'Intérieur de la Belgique, Madame Verlinden, vendredi dernier. Le commissaire a réitéré notre souci, en particulier concernant la proportionnalité des mesures prises par les autorités belges. Et nous ne pensons pas qu'une travel ban, une restriction de voyager, interdiction de voyage, pardon, merci, respecte ce principe de proportionnalité. Et comme ça, notre demande reste en place pour la Belgique de remplacer cette mesure par les mesures plus ciblées. Notre but reste de trouver les solutions avec les États membres dès que possible pour assurer le fonctionnement de notre marché commun et le droit de libre circulation pour les Européens. Nous avons en ce moment reçu des réponses de tous les 6 États membres et la Commission reste en contact avec les États membres concernés. Et le commissaire Reinders va aussi parler avec les autres États membres pour faire un follow-up de ces échanges de lettres et pour trouver les solutions autant vite que possible.
Merci beaucoup, Christiane. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour nous aujourd'hui, pour Christiane en particulier? Je n'en vois pas. Sur d'autres sujets? Non plus. Merci beaucoup. Nous nous voyons donc demain pour le compte-rendu du collège ici en salle de presse. Merci beaucoup et bon après-midi.